Hi, my name is Jody Martin. I'm the Vice President of Education and Training. Welcome to the Frog Street Toddler Training. You have an important role to play as a toddler teacher. You are teaching children during the most important years of their lives. Understanding how to optimize that learning is critical, and you will help to do this by implementing the Frog Street program. We have a wonderful program to teach children. It's comprehensive, enriched, and has all the tools you need. We have promised the parents that we would deliver this program to their children, and it is what differentiates us from other schools. So grab your welcome guide and we will begin to explore this exciting program. But before we begin to look at specifically the curriculum, I want to mention that the well-being of children is a priority before the curriculum comes into play. The first thing to take into consideration is creating a safe environment both physically and emotionally. What does the physical environment look like? It's when you supervise closely, you make sure toys are in good repair, installing those safety latches on cabinets and drawers, you sanitize toys and surfaces daily, you use a small object tester to make sure there are no choking hazards, you provide plenty of space for walking and climbing, keeping those diaper pails and trash cans and cleaning supplies out of the reach of children, and of course you're sure that the water temperature is safe for little ones. The emotional environment. Emotional safety means that you speak in low and kind voices in a loving and gentle way. This is a nurturing environment where the children and families feel safe. You are the secondary source of attachment when parents are at work, and both the children and parents need to develop that special trust in you. Another caregiver responsibility is emotional coaching. That is important to be aware of children's emotions and recognize this as an opportunity to connect. Listen with empathy and help children to name their emotions while setting limits and finding good solutions. Nutrition is important. In order to encourage healthy eating habits in children, sit and talk with them while they are eating, make feeding time a special time. Help them to use a spoon, a utensil, or a cup, try new foods, and then model good manners when you can. This is a great bonding and learning time for children and you. Parent partnerships are very important too. Parents are your partners, and two-way communication is the key to having a successful partnership. You can verbally communicate during drop-off and pickup if possible, but completely recording in LifeCubby is very important. Be sure to take pictures and tag them with objectives and represent what is on the lesson plan in your message about the child's day. This is how your families will know that you followed the lesson plan and provide the learning you planned for in your lesson plan. Recording the milestones the child makes is a very precious gift for the parents when they aren't able to see them firsthand. Also, be sure and share the parents' partner letters available with the Frog Street curriculum on the planning and assessment CD. Each weekly letter provides activities parents can do with their children at home, and it offers tips and best practices for handling behavior issues, teaching table manners, and developing positive character traits. The Frog Street Toddler curriculum was created to support domain-based activities. They're child-centered and intentional and integrated. There's special emphasis on social and emotional development. The curriculum was also created to support differentiated instruction. There's adaptations for special needs and younger learners, and there's also challenge opportunities for those children that need a little bit more. There's joyful learning opportunities that we focus on. They're high-interest activities, there's songs, there's stories, rhymes, finger plays, and games, and just lots of opportunities to laugh and play, which is so very important at this age. The Frog Street Toddler is built around 4 key cornerstones to provide a collection of activities that optimize learning and development for toddlers 18 to 36 months of age. The cornerstones are early brain development research, learning domains, conscious discipline, and intentionality. Let's first talk about, we're going to look closely at each, but let's start with brain development research. In the first 3 years of life, the brain builds an estimated 1,000 trillion synapses through the experiences it encounters. That is the activities that you're providing on a daily basis. Experience forges the connections in the brain, and repetition strengthens them. Human development is shaped by both nature, which is biology, and nurture, which is experience. Cells wire for social interaction and empathy by 4 months. Human interaction is necessary for this to happen. There are times when the brain is able to wire specific skills at an optimal level. These times are called windows of opportunity. We will discuss discipline and intentionality in a few more slides. Dr. Pam Schiller, the author of this curriculum, says we need to provide one activity each day from each domain for each child. And once again, those learning domains are language, cognitive, social emotional, and physical. So remember, one activity each day from each domain. In order to help parents understand the learning domains too, the Frog Street Toddler program provides 15 classroom posters for caregivers and families. Some of them include 5 ways to encourage toddlers to talk, 5 ways to support cognitive development, 5 ways to support social emotional development, and 5 ways to support physical development. There are many other posters too, but you get the idea that these are ways that we can help educate the parents as well as ourselves. The third cornerstone of Frog Street Toddler is conscious discipline, which is a comprehensive classroom management and social emotional program that creates a learning environment where children feel safe and loved. Children begin to learn how to manage their emotions, and they also begin to interact appropriately with peers. That's all a part of this program. Also, self-regulation is the key to school readiness and more powerful than IQ as a predictor of academic achievement. Conscious discipline is embedded into the curriculum, as I mentioned earlier. We start every day the Brain Smart way. That means children sing a song or two, they perform a de-stressing activity or a calming activity, they acknowledge friends who are absent, and then they work with a partner. And then they're challenged to commit to being a responsible class member. And yes, number 4 does mean that children will commit to being a responsible member of the class by focusing on specific social skills, such as using kind words, helpful hands, listening ears, all sorts of different things that I'm sure that you can come up with for the children to commit to as well, depending on your group of kids. They will place their name and their picture in the safekeeper box that you've made for them to symbolize the classroom as a safe place for children. Intentionality means understanding why we do what we do and intentionally selecting activity to meet a specific outcome, goal, or objective. The 4th cornerstone of Frog Street Toddler is acting with intention. So what are the characteristics of an intentional caregiver? An intentional caregiver focuses on each developmental domain. They possess a wide range of knowledge. They provide a balance of experiences. And an intentional caregiver is mindful of the purpose of materials and activities. That means the teacher focuses on the developmental domains as well as the windows of opportunity or the best time to introduce a concept. The intentional teacher knows how to accommodate individual differences with personality styles or temperament and learning styles. An intentional caregiver focuses on activities with specific outcomes or goals in mind for children's developmental learning. In order to be intentional, you will need to be familiar with the contents of these 2 posters. One of the posters is the windows of opportunity for brain wiring, and once again, that just lets you know when the optimal time is to provide an activity for children. And then the developmental growth chart is just to help you understand the milestones for this age group. It's also important for parents to understand these 2 items as well, so they better understand child development and what you're doing with their child. Now let's look at all the components you have to support these cornerstones of the curriculum. As you can see by this slide, there are a lot of components to your Frog Street Toddler curriculum. All the tools you need to implement the program should be in your enrichment class, in your classrooms, and at your fingertips. Please refer to pages 5 to 7 in your welcome guide, and I will talk about each component. So as you can see on page 5, there are your program guides. These are your thematic activity guides, And there are 13 guides, so that gets you through a whole year and a little bit more of activities. There's also 80 photo activity cards, and as you can see, there's information on the back of the photo activity card that tells you what you can do with children, questions you can ask, maybe a little rhyme or a finger play, as well as other vocabulary to introduce, and sign language. You will have 18 board books and 16 of the same board books in Spanish. There will be 14 softcover books. There's a developmental flip book that is not pictured here, but it is like an easel type book. There are 2 developmental story books, 14 story folders, and the story folders are like magnetic flannel board stories, and it has the story in English and in Spanish, and then there are magnetic pieces that go along with the story. There are 15 posters, as you saw earlier, like the Windows of Opportunity and the developmental milestones. You should have 7 music CDs and a pattern CD, which will have Blackline Masters for you to make like teacher-made games. There's a planning and assessment CD, which will have your assessments on there that you'll use with the children twice a year. And then there's various manipulatives. And then, of course, don't forget Max, the plush puppet. And you can see the manipulatives are some balls and bean bags for gross motor activities, as well as little peepers to help tell stories, and then eyedroppers to do some science activities. Okay, now I'd like you to follow along in the welcome book, pages 8 to 15. This is a 2-page spread of what's in a teacher's guidebook. So if you have a teacher guide in front of you as well, you can just look at one of those 2-page spreads. So looking at the top of the inset picture, you have your activity guide, the 4 weeks by topic. And that just tells you what the sub-themes are going to be for the week and gives you an overall idea of what the subject matter is going to be that month. There's also program materials. This is what is supplied with the curriculum. And then supplies to gather is what extra items you will need to gather for activities. Then there's a preparation section, which just tells you what you need to make ahead of time, like if it's a Blackline Master making a teacher-made game. There's always vocabulary. You will introduce children to about 5 to 8 words in each week in English, Spanish, and sign language. And then there's learning centers, which just have some additional activities that you can provide for free choice of for the children in the classroom. There's always a music and movement and an outdoor play activity. And if you'll note on page 9 of your welcome book, and looking at this 2-page spread, or if you're looking in one of your teacher's guides at the very bottom, near outdoor play, for example, you'll see a blue arrow. When you see a blue arrow on an activity, that indicates that it's a more challenging. There's ways that you can make it more challenging. So throughout the guide, there will be differentiated instruction to adapt lessons for beginning learners, second language learners, and children with motor, visual, or hearing challenges. But there's also this blue arrow, which indicates challenging, more challenging activities. Note that the yellow sunshine in box, there's 5 did you know statements for each week. They feature new research and validated caregivers' actions or reminds caregiver an area they may wish to focus on each week. It's a little bit of professional development for you. On page 10 in the welcome guide, there is a group activity, and it usually lasts about 10 minutes, and it's part of the Brain Smart Start that we reviewed earlier in our session. You can use Max to welcome back children when they have been absent, demonstrate the use of the Safekeeper box, and teach the sign for community under build community. And then there's some other on page 12, language development, page 13, cognitive development, page 14 and 15 have social, emotional, and physical development in your teacher's guides. So on page 10, 20, 30, and 40, you'll see those scenarios that are what should you do. that I just talked about. And there's one for each week of the program. Really look at these closely. They provide support and strategies for handling often encountered behaviors and situations with toddlers. Once again, it's a tidbit of built-in professional development for you. So lesson plans are already done. You'll need to modify them based on your group of children, but check with your DC. They should be done from the prior year. They should also be uploaded to your Life Cubby and posted in your classroom. Parents as partner notes need to go out weekly, as mentioned earlier in this presentation. So under assessment, you can look in page 56 in the Welcome Book for more details and examples of each of these, but just to kind of give you a highlight, this section offers activities to use for assessment. So when you see these 4 icons or any one of these, it indicates types of assessment aligned to the specific learning goals of that week's activities. So the pencil, for example, means to record a written anecdotal observation of what the child's doing. The camera means this is a great photo opportunity. And when you see the little folder, it means a work sample can be put in the portfolio. So if there's an activity with the folder, you're going to want to keep that and put it in the child's portfolio for parent-teacher conferences. These things can be done on a weekly basis. It just is a little easier than waiting till right before November or May to do all of your assessments. So ongoing assessment is used to identify a child's current abilities in order to plan individualized activities or even group activities, to note their developmental progress or any concerns or delays, or to guide instruction. You can do this by checking a child's progress by recording observations on the developmental checklist that's on your assessment CD, or by using the anecdotal record and collecting work samples. That also will remind you of what the child has accomplished for your parent-teacher conferences. Each child should have a developmental checklist in their portfolio or their file. The anecdotal records are written observations that provide sort of short, objective account of an event or an incident. You must document exactly what you see and hear when you do anecdotal notes, and it should not include your personal opinions and assumptions, though. Just keep that in mind when you're doing anecdotal notes. Okay, lots of information today for you. Now you're familiar with all of the components of your program and the teacher's guide. Next, you will want to make sure that you have some of these displayed each day to match the lesson that you will be teaching. So you have an awareness of my curriculum expectations are that you have an awareness of all the components, that you display the components in your classroom, especially the ones that you're using that day or that week. You follow your lesson plan that is uploaded on your Life Cubby or it's posted on your bulletin board, and be sure and communicate what you've taught the children that day on their Life Cubby. This is a snapshot and a reflection of you. Take as many pictures of the children portraying the objectives that you have on your lesson plan so parents can see that you're following what you promised. Most of all, I want you to have fun and enjoy the fun and meaningful activities you will offer the children. And remember, from a child's point of view, what you teach me from 0 to 3 is what matters most to me. Thank you.